Yo, what's going on, guys? This is Herald of Perplexity. I know I've been away from YouTube and videos for a while, but I'll try to start it up again. This is gonna be my Final Fantasy VII Remake review and thoughts video, because I've been seeing other people doing them, so I was like, I might as well throw my hat into the ring, you know, give my 2 cents on it. And spoiler alerts throughout the whole video, because I'm going to be delving into endgame stuff and just the game overall. So spoiler alert, if you haven't beaten the game and you don't want to be spoiled, go finish the game before you watch this video. So here we go. I have nothing written down, it's just going to be off the top of my head. See how it goes. My impromptu review, as it was. And here we go. So, I'm going to start off this review by saying this game is a definite 10 out of 10 for me. Like, it has problems, but, like, those problems are more nitpicks than really anything for me, so they don't even really matter. It's just stuff that, like, I feel like could have been a little bit better, like a smidge, but it's amazing the way it is already. So, graphic-wise, it's amazing. Story-wise, amazing. Voice acting, amazing. Combat, gameplay, just spectacular. And people compare it to Kingdom Hearts, and I mean, I can see why, but it's not the same as Kingdom Hearts. And for people who hated the ATB gauge, you know, Kotaku, if you really think about it, this combat system is so similar to the original, except for the fact that you can attack even when your ATB gauge isn't full, which is a godsend, because there is nothing worse than having to wait just to use a potion, and then, like, you can't even attack, you know? So you can still attack and then use a potion, which is just, oh my god, it's a saving grace. And I say potion, but, like, come on, we all use spells. Like, come on now. But anyway, combat's amazing. One of the biggest problems that I've seen from the, you know, the fandom regarding the remake is the last chapter, the ending. And I just, like, honestly, I don't understand, you know? Like, they had to do Sephiroth. Like, I mean, they didn't have to, but, like, I knew they were going to. Just because, really, you really expected that tank on the freeway to be the final boss of this game? No. No. That would be such an anticlimactic way to end the game. So, I knew Sephiroth was going to be the last boss. Like, I never even watched that final trailer, because I didn't want to be spoiled on story stuff, so, like... But even then, I still knew Sephiroth was going to be the final boss. And regarding the whole, like, defying fate, and now people are worried that the game's gonna diverge from the original, I understand your concerns, but at the same time, like, they've basically been saying from the beginning of development that this wasn't gonna be a one-for-one remake of Final Fantasy. Like, well, FF7. And I never expected it to. Like... Because the first thing I think of when I think of a remake are horror movies. You know, like, the 2000s was just almost nothing but remakes. And the remakes were never really the same as the original. Like, take Black Christmas. You know, they added that whole thing about the John... Like, you didn't even know who the... In the original Black Christmas, you didn't even know who the bad guy was. Like, you never really see him definitively. Like, you get a glimpse of his eye or some shit. And that's all you got. And then in the remake, Black Xmas, with Laurel from Arrow, she was like the main girl. With that one, like, you get his whole backstory, and, like, he had a sister-daughter, and he had jaundice, which made him orange. Like, he turned into a Simpsons character. But, like, anyway. My point is, I knew this wasn't going to be a shot-for-shot remake, and I knew it was going to be like one of those horror movie kind of remakes. And I was fine with that, you know? Like, there were so many things that were cut from the original that I knew they were going to incorporate them into the remake, like... And then there are all these people that are saying, you know, oh, I'm gonna sue them for false advertising. And again, like, it's not false advertising. It is a remake. It's just not a one-for-one, shot-for-shot remake. It's still a remake, though. And they're remaking, their own destiny, basically. Like, the characters. Like, they are forging their own path going forward. And I think that's so cool. Like, the whispers, oh, man. It was such a, like, I thought it was such a cool plot device. Like, using the whispers is basically, like, trying to keep it exactly the same as the original, and then you destroy the whispers, and now, like, everything is open-ended. Like, you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen. I think that's so cool. So that's my thoughts on the ending. Now, let's get into, like, some more, I guess, like, okay, let's talk about the trophies. So, like I don't know if I said it in this take, because I've done like 3 or 4 different takes of this. I've platinumed Final Fantasy VII Remake. So, like, I've basically done everything there is to do in the game. Now, the side quests, they're, you know, standard RPG side quests. You know, it's just go here, defeat some enemies, come back, give you, you know, a materia or a, you know, whatever. Like, the only ones that really stand out to me, side quests, were, like, the like, squat and pull-up minigames. And let me just say, I hated the pull-up minigame. The squat one, I was fine with, but the pull-up, oh my god, that was torture. Beating, the third guy, I can't remember his name. Like, I'm terrible with characters' names. I really am. But he was terrible in the pull-up. Like, basically, the only way to beat him was to get it perfect and not screw up. Like, I got lucky. He screwed up twice, and I beat him by 1 pull-up. So, like, I got lucky getting that trophy. But, oh my god, I am never trying to beat him again. I don't give a crap. Like, that sucked. And it wouldn't have been so hard if it didn't change it to a zigzag pattern. Because, like, the squat minigame was triangle, circle, X, square, back to triangle. Like, it was a circle. And then the pull-up minigame, it becomes a zigzag pattern. And it always changes every time you play it. Like, it could start at square or circle and then go in a zig... Like, it changed every time. And So if you're having trouble with that one, all I can really tell you is keep practicing and mute all the sounds, music, sound effects, voices, and get rid of the subtitles, because they distract you. So, that's my advice on that trophy. Now, hard mode, oh my god. It lived up to its name. Hard mode was hard as fuck. The first thing I recommend for hard mode is to get 2 HP and MP ups for every character. Like, master 2 for each character, and have them equipped at all times. There's that, and then once you do that, go fight the Joy and Pride, prototype boss. Because if you beat him, you get an accessory that gives you a full limit break bar at the beginning of every fight, and that helps tremendously. Like, against Sephiroth, against, Hell House even, like, it helps tremendously. Like, you can get a boss down to 2/3 health just at the beginning of the fight, and it's worth it. I think the most time-consuming chapters were 3, 8, 9, and 14. I mean, obviously, because those are the ones that have all the side quests. So if you wanted to do all the side quests, it's going to take you a minute. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning that was spectacular was the soundtrack. Oh my god. Like, I call them remixes. I'm not a music person, so I don't know, like, all the terminology, but all the remixes of the songs from the original, oh, they hit me right in the nostalgia. Like, when you're in the sewers, like, I heard that music and it brought me back to the original. I was like, oh my god, nostalgia bomb. Like, it was amazing. One thing you gotta give Square Enix, even if you don't like anything else about the game, their soundtracks are, like, always amazing. Now let's go on to, like, the future of the series. And this is getting back into the endgame spoilers here. So, you beat the Whispers, and then you get that cutscene of Zack, like, from the end of Crisis Core, when he's fighting that whole battalion of infantries. And, like, he's like, did I beat them all? And that plastic bag goes zooming by, and it's like, it's stamp on it. But it's like, when I first played it, I was like, why is he... Well, he's probably a puppy, because maybe, like, they had Stamp grow up or something. But then, like, I played it for hard mode, and I watched that scene again. I'm like, wait a second, that's a different breed of dog entirely. So I'm thinking that Zack is still dead in the remake timeline. But, like, now there's a new timeline where Zack survived and brought Cloud back to Midgar. And I wonder if they're gonna make that its own game, maybe? Which, I would be okay with, but I would prefer them to stick with the timeline that the remake is already set in. But Zack surviving was such a cool moment for me. I was like, oh! Very audible gasp. Because, like, I love Crisis Core. That game's, like, I play it every few years, and it never gets old for me. Like, it's so good, and the ending always makes me tear up, because Zack is just such a great character. And you know he's gonna die, you know he is, but you still hope somehow he survives. Well, we got our wish now, didn't we? So, I don't even think that's the original timeline that happens in. Like, I think it's a completely new timeline, which I'm fine with. But I think the reason they had that plastic bag flow by with that new stamp on it was to show that this isn't the same timeline / alternate universe that the remake timeline is set in. Because, you know, why else would they have that? You know, like, first time I was like, okay, so it's... Why did they have that? And then I thought about it, and I'm like, oh, that's probably why, you know. There was that, and there was something else. I mean, I'm hoping Aerith doesn't die in this timeline, but we'll see what happens. Oh, I remember now. So, regarding the whole diverging paths and stuff, the game basically hinted that the original Final Fantasy VII was kind of the bad ending. Like, because before Advent Children and all that, the compilation came out, you know, Red 13 runs through the, you know, the canyon or whatever with his pups, and then he stands there and howls or whatever, and Midgar's all destroyed the shit. Before Advent Children, what that meant was that humanity was basically extinct. Like, the life stream in Aerith didn't stop Meteor in time, and everybody was wiped out. That is a bad ending. Like, that cannot be a true ending, you know what I mean? So, like, I kind of feel like the remake timeline is kind of a true ending route. You know, you had to go through all these hoops and shit to get to this good, you know, true ending where everybody lives or something. And, like, I don't think... Like, I'm okay with that, you know, because it just, you know, that just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. Like, it didn't matter. Everybody died except Nanaki, Red 13, you know. It's just like, really? That's how you're going to end this magnificent game? Everybody's dead except for Nanaki, and he has puppies for some reason. Like, that's, you know. So, I feel like this is kind of the true ending. Like, the true ending route. And I'm excited for part 2. Like, because I loved part 1, but, like, part 2 is going to be even better just because it's going to be more open world, because at this point you finally get to the world map, and, you know, the whole world opens up. Like, you can't get everywhere, obviously, right from the start, but it's more open-ended. You can go places and do things, and I'm pretty excited for that. I kind of wish Cloud and them brought the truck and the Hardy Daytona with them, because wouldn't that be so sweet, just, you know, riding the motorcycle through this open world, like going all Breath of the Wild and riding the Master Cycle Zero, you know? I think that'd be pretty sweet, but they left them on the freeway, so I really doubt that's gonna happen. But hopefully we'll be able to ride Chocobos fairly early. Kind of like in 15, like you get it at the, you know, the second town you stop at or whatever. So we'll see what happens. But, another thing I want to talk about regarding the diverging paths and timelines is, Biggs surviving. Now, I thought that was Jesse's glove and Biggs' headband on that table. But I think it was Kupo on Twitter? I'm not sure. Somebody on Twitter posted about that, and then I said, isn't that Jesse's glove there? And he said he thought it was Biggs, and I was like, well, I guess it could be. I just thought it was Jesse's, too. Because, I mean, if Biggs survived, why wouldn't Jesse? I mean, other than the fact that she was on a higher level of the tower. But, and I just want to say, I'm 99% sure that them surviving is not in the remake timeline. Because if you look, like, because when, Merle, or whatever her name is, the landlady, and all them lift the seventh heaven sign, I'm pretty sure it's destroyed differently there than it is in the remake timeline. Like, it's just got that chunk missing out of the top. Like, I thought the remake timeline had, like, was cracked in half or some shit, or, like, it was destroyed completely differently. So that's why I think that's in a different timeline. And I think that's why they showed that specific part, is to just kind of hint, like, nudge, nudge, this isn't that timeline, you know? And I think Nomura is pretty, like, well, Nomura and everybody else that's worked on FF7 and Kingdom Hearts, like, I think they're pretty good at that. Like, giving you subtle hints, trying to, like, nudge you in the right direction story-wise. Like, I think they do a pretty good job at that. Now, I just want to say, one of my favorite things about the remake is how they incorporated Crisis Core lore, I guess. It's not even really lore, it's just like they incorporated parts of Crisis Core into the remake. Like when, you're trying to leave the, like, Shinra break room or whatever it is, you know, the cafeteria or whatever you want to call it. And, like, those two infantrymen come up the stairs, and one of them recognizes Cloud, and he's like, hey, I'll go get Kunsel. It's like, when I heard that, I was fangirling so hard. I was like, oh my god, they remembered Kunsel from Crisis Core. Now, for those of you who have never played Crisis Core, or if it's been a while, Kunsel is the soldier third class that was, like, friends with Zack. And he wasn't a super important character, but the fact that, you know, this team of people remembered Kunsel specifically from Crisis Core and name-dropped him in the remake, that just blew my mind. And then when you go into the portal and it shows that cutscene of Zack, like, they basically recreated that cutscene from Crisis Core right at the end, where, like, it starts at that one infantry guy pointing the gun, and, like, it pans out, and you just see, like, 200 infantrymen, or however many it was, like, and he says, like, I friggin', like, said those immortal words, like, line for line with Zack, you know, boy, oh boy, the price of freedom is steep. Like, oh my god, it gave me such a feeling, like, just in the feels, like, it was just crazy. I was like, holy shit, they're actually, you know, doing Crisis Core shit. Because one of my hopes with the remake was that they were going to kind of make Crisis Core canon. I mean, I think Crisis Core is canon anyway. But one of the reasons a lot of people don't is, like, literally Genesis, the character. But, you know, because they're like, oh, why doesn't Cloud remember Genesis when you go into the flashbacks? Like, why doesn't it ever talk about Genesis? And it's like, well, Cloud wasn't there when Genesis was in the reactor with Sephiroth. Only Zack was. And, like, maybe Zack didn't tell him about Genesis, you know? Because, like, the whole, like, the way I understand it, the reason Cloud, like, has all these memories of Zack's is, like, when Cloud was catatonic, Zack told him these stories, because, you know, they were on the run. What else were they going to talk about? And, you know, maybe Cloud heard all these stories, and then when his mind fractured when Zack died, you know, he replaced himself with, or he replaced Zack with himself in all these stories. And those kind of became Cloud's false memories. Like, that's just the way I understand it. But, you know, maybe Zack didn't tell him about Genesis. You know, it's not like Cloud actually met Genesis. But I think Genesis is a canon character. Like, I do. And I think Crisis Core was canon to the original anyway. But, you know, that's just my opinion. It's not really a fact. It's never been confirmed or deconfirmed. But most people's main point of why it's not canon is Genesis, and I don't buy that. But anyway. So yeah, this game was so worth the wait. And I think if we had gotten it sooner, it wouldn't be as good. Because, like, if you look at a beta picture of Remake Barrett, like, the refined Barrett character model is so much better. Like, it just is. So, I'm glad they took their time, you know, making this game, because it needed to be good, is really what it is. Like, it had to be good. It couldn't be a half-assed, like, cash grab. You know, it had to be a quality game. And I think they pulled it off. So, kudos to you, Square Enix, Nomura, Kitase, whoever else was involved that I don't bother to remember your names. It's not that I don't bother, I just have a hard time remembering names in general. But, anyway, kudos to them, kudos to, Nobuo Uematsu. I try to pronounce names correctly. I don't always succeed. But kudos to you. The music was just fantastic. It was like the perfect blend of new and, like, the classic music. Like, it was perfect. So, kudos to everybody. And especially kudos to Square Enix for shipping, well, mine early, at least. I don't know about everybody else, but they shipped my First Class Edition early, and I actually got it the day before the game officially came out. But I didn't want to stream it until the day it came out, because that just wasn't fair, you know? Like, there were people who couldn't get it until the actual day it came out, so, you know, I wanted to be fair about it. So I waited. But yeah, I have faith that Square Enix is going to do good with this sub-series, basically. And it is a remake, in my opinion. It's just not a shot-for-shot remake like the 1999 Psycho was with Vince Vaughn, and that movie sucked. So, you know, shot-for-shots aren't always the best way to go. Like, I think they made a good choice here. So anyway, those have been my raw and impromptu thoughts on the Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1. I don't think it's false advertising to put Remake in the title, so if you disagree with me, that's fine. You know, I'm not going to argue with you, just I gave my thoughts. If you want to give me your thoughts, that's fine too. I'll read comments. Like, you know, everybody has an opinion, and that's fine. It's when people take their opinions and try to say they're facts is when I have a problem. But anyway, I hope y'all have a great day. Please try to be good people, stay inside, stay safe, don't get sick, If you haven't beaten Final Fantasy VII Remake, and for some reason you watch this video without beating the game yourself, I gave fair warning at the beginning, but you should definitely finish the game. Again, kudos to Square Enix, all the people who worked on it, people who worked on the soundtrack, the shipping department or whatever. Kudos to all of you. UPS, thank you very much for this fantastic journey that you've started us on. And, I know this is a Final Fantasy review, but may your heart be your guiding key. Peace.